Wholeness. Welcome to Notes of Nara. My name is Naja Rashida, and may this message find you well and whole. Today's topic is yet another message regarding the soul, and today's topic is about radical acceptance. A lot of the time, we have some horrific things that happen to us, and not everyone is spared when we come into this life, and not everyone suffers. It's literally this beautiful, chaotic mixed bag of beauty and ugliness when it comes to having and living out a human life. I'm going to be transparent here and a bit vulnerable because I am doing soul work. I am putting this into practice. Sacred contracts. I've mentioned this throughout the month of January. Caroline Myss. Rarely do I ever purchase books, but I'm a huge fan of the library. And with minimalism, I try to keep that, to a certain amount. But anytime I'm studying something, for sure. If you could see my living room floor, it's covered with textbooks and books and more books because I'm in grad school, and I just thought, why not make this video, give myself a break. So, but why did this have to happen to me? And that's the question I'm going to put in the title of this video. Because generally, I would say there's a percentage of people, most people, who are good-natured, okay? They're just average people trying to live a life. And then you have the small percentage of people that are quite evil, okay? Again, the power of choice. People can choose to act with love, live with love, breathe love, or they can choose to do the opposite. And unfortunately, there are people who do certain things. And so I want to share a little bit of a story that has impacted my life permanently. And what's so interesting, I don't have memory of the incident, but I am the product of the incident. And mark my words, it wasn't an accident, it was an incident. And so I'll just share it. So as you can see, I wear glasses. I have more than one. All right. For those of you who are, it's just part of the wardrobe, it's part of your lifestyle, Sometimes people will wear glasses as an accessory. I can't and don't have the choice to wear glasses. I have to. When I think, and I can only go by the account of what my parents have shared with me. My other family members, they don't really talk about it throughout the decades. My grandmother talked about it a little bit. Both my parents have been vocal about it, but it's very, very tough for them. It's very hard for them. And in my family, when there's anything traumatic, they will add a lot of humor to it, right? That's just, we laugh at our pain. So I was under the age of, I would say, a year old. And just, learning to walk, I think. I didn't have any teeth, just, I don't know. I don't have any memory of this. I can only go by pictures and what my parents chose to tell me about the incident. So apparently my mother, she gave me, had errands to run or something, and my sister's dad was supposed to babysit, but my sister's father gave me to another person to babysit me, a woman. And I guess both my parents agreed. I had this very unique cry. it was incredibly high pitched. Um, like I would go, my dad would jokingly say that I would go octaves. Like it would be a normal cry, and then it just kept getting more and more and more and more and more and more intense. Like I just, both my parents said it was very interesting experience. And what's so interesting is growing up as a toddler and as a little girl, I just was very, very quiet. But I digress. So, this woman, I don't know, I can only make assumptions at this point, but what happened was she shook me. Um, they call it shaken baby syndrome. So, what happened? I guess I had a crying episode, and mind you, I'm a baby. And she shook me. My father said he picked me up, I guess, or they noticed something was off. Both my parents, they noticed something was off. And when it comes to severe or TBIs, traumatic brain injuries, you are incredibly lethargic. So pay attention if those of you who have children. You're incredibly your child or your baby, your toddler, they're gonna look like they're like drunk a little bit, if they're walking or ambulating. And so anyway, they took me immediately to the hospital, and the doctors successfully diagnosed what it was. And then it just turned into a nightmare after that, because I guess there was an investigation with police, child protective services, possibly. And then I was taken to Riley, the very famous, well-known children's hospital, where I stayed for several months. I think maybe 7-8 months. My grandmother was a practicing nurse at the time, and so she said she would just be driving back and forth to Indianapolis, back and forth, back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. My mother went through it. She hasn't gone into the details of how she handled it. I can only guess, but she just kind of, yeah, I don't want to get into it because that's her personal experience. But needless to say, my early years on this planet were a little rough. I have pictures of when I was hospitalized, and and I was smiling in them, and most of them I just, I was just like, hooked up to tubes and heart monitors and stuff in this crib, bald because they had to shave my head. But anyway, there was swelling of the brain, and I'm going to assume, with the science that I know and the medical knowledge that I know, what happened was she shook me so hard and it detached. I think it detached my retina in my left eye, and I think there was an occipital issue or injury in the back of my brain, because my vision has always been impaired since then. So I came into this world with beautiful, unique hazel green eyes. That's very rare, in my family or in my race. They were actually blue, like this deep blue. And, and then, I don't know, just growing, having a normal, I guess, a normal development. And this issue happened, this horrific event, I would say. My dad had a hard time with it too, and that's his story. I don't want to get into that because that's something he would have to share. But I really, my earliest memory of it is that it affected me. To this day, for the rest of my life. The first few years, I would have seizures constantly. My dad would tell me I would be in the back seat. He'd be driving, he'd look back, and I would just be like seizing in the back. And this went on, I think, all the way to 3, 4, 5, 6. I think there's one seizure I had when I was, I think, 5-ish or 6-ish, and I never will forget it, because usually you don't have any memories of your seizures, but sometimes you can feel it coming on, depending. It's a spectrum, And yeah, this is a little hard to share, but I feel like God was in my heart, and I'm guided to share it. And so growing up, my mom was very, very hyper vigilant when it came to my like just being a kid, like running and climbing on things. And anytime I would bump my head and cry or hurt myself, she would run to my head. My mother, she would pray a lot. I remember her praying a lot and putting her hands on me and praying and praying and praying that my head would develop, or my brain would continue to develop normally. But the seizures, I think they stopped in the early 90s. I have no memory of it now. And then on my many visits to the doctor, I never will forget this. The doctor literally told my mother she'll never be good at math. She'll never be good at it. You know? And I didn't, obviously they don't share the extent of your injuries with you when you are a minor. You know, they don't tell you anything. You just, the only thing that I felt like, and that it didn't bother me because I was surrounded by love. I had my sister, my mom, my parents. I just was so much in a kid world. My left eye, when you have a detached retina, your eye is pretty much legally blind. And so I have maybe 20, 10 or 20, 30% vision in my eye, and it's all, my brain is beautiful. Brains are beautiful. They heal in such an amazing way. And so my eye will go inward. And listen here, I remember just having a lot of double vision, okay? You know, and I remember going to the eye doctor a lot. They were putting droplets in my eye, poking in my eye. I mean, not like needles or anything, thank God. But just glasses were always part of my life since then. And so it's something that I've medically had to like just rely on. But yeah, I didn't really catch wind of my eye and what it, like, it literally was just inward. And you know, they made me wear the patch, which actually helped. I detested it, but it helped strengthen the eye. So then on its own, the eye began to just straighten itself out, right? It really did. As the older I got, it was you couldn't tell anything. It was abnormal unless you took my glasses off, you know? And beauty, my mom was very much like, oh, because I'm tall and, you know, I look like my dad and very model-esque figure. And my mom was like, you're going to get into modeling and stuff. And I just wasn't really like all about that life. But I just wasn't. But I tried a little bit of it. And I was always the person that I'm not going to say I'm not vain. Everyone has a little vanity, but not enough for me to make that a career. Not enough for me to chase that dollar, you know, to wax my whole body from head to toe, to just be obsessed with fashion and to chase the money and chase contracts and not eat and starve myself and to date the photographers and go to crazy celebrity parties and network. That's just not my thing. It just wasn't. So by my early teens, it just, you know, I'm like, it is what it is. I'd rather be the person behind the camera, right? And in general, when it comes to vanity and beauty, listen, I'm a quirky woman, right? I don't like to wear bras and I don't shave my armpits and I got a lazy eye doing her own thing, right? And these are things, this is how my body chooses to express itself, how I choose to express myself. Whoop-de-woo, it is what it is. But as I gotten older, in my late 20s, the body changes, the body ages. And my left eye's been relying on my right for so long. And so I have to protect the right eye, right? And the left eye, well, I mean, it's doing what she wants to do. And I feel sometimes self-conscious about it because people, you know, they do they don't mean to because they don't know. So when I'm talking to someone, having a conversation, they'll look over their shoulder. I'm glad I can laugh at this. Laughter is the best medicine, I swear. I'm so happy I grew up in a household where we can laugh at our trauma because shit, okay? But they'll laugh. They'll like, are you? But you know. And so I'm like, no, I'm looking at you, and I don't even take the time to like explain to them my backstory. I usually don't because no, number one, usually 85% of the people don't give a shit about what happened to you 30 years ago or over 30 years ago, almost 40 years ago. They don't care. People closest to you, so you remember your public, private, and secret life, right? So public life, I don't go around, I'll tell like my special education kids, my students who are in special education, I should say specifically, they, a lot of them have suffered from TBIs. So I feel comfortable sharing with them, like, hey, or if I have a smart ass student, saying, are you looking at me? Are you looking at me? Ha ha ha. And I'm like, okay. And when they do it multiple times, I'm like, okay, this is actually from a severe head injury, a traumatic brain injury from years ago. So I don't say that, oh, yeah, hey, there's a jealous, crazy ass woman who decided to shake me and almost commit murder, right? I don't say that, but sometimes I'm so close sometimes when it's, I don't know. But, the thing is, I'm not that touchy about it. And I wanted to really say that it's something that I never really allowed to get in my way. And it's something about radical acceptance that I think I've always practiced. But it's still like when you are, I'm still working through it and going through the sacred contracts. You have the victim, the child, the saboteur, and the prostitute archetypes that everyone has. That's a foundation of who you are. They're ugly. They're not. It's some of them aren't nice. But these are things that you can use. They become guardians, right, of your consciousness. They're tools of your consciousness. But I'll have to say, like, there was a part of me when I was about 12 years old, and I didn't think about it, right? But I'm like, right, I'm not gonna let this stop me. I ended up learning French language, traveling overseas. I learned how to play instruments. I've done amazing, beautiful things. And I've always I'm like, if God put me through all that and my foundational years of being a human, and I'm alive and I can see with my right eye, I have vision still. I'm living my life to the fullest. I'm living my life to the fullest. There are people who are blind, who are deaf, or who are, I would say, mute, who have all three, and they live a full life. Rare, but they live a very full life. Helen Keller, okay? People that have, that are paralyzed, missing limbs, or had a stroke. And all of it kind of ties into their sole purpose. It's just something that is part of our lesson in this life. And so the victim archetype screams out, but why did this happen to me? Why did this have to happen to me? Right? I don't often think about, wow, what if I had full 20/20 vision? What would my life turn out to be? Maybe I would have been 10 times more vain or 100 times more vain than I am now, in an unhealthy way, right? Just all about beauty and then social media, right? What if I turn into one of those weird Instagram models or something, all about just look at me, look at me, look at my look. And I'm glad. I'm actually happy that it happened, right? Not happy. Okay, let me backtrack, because justice was never served. Okay, and I know that that's always, I think, probably weighed very heavily on my parents. Very, very heavy on my parents. Justice was never served, to my knowledge. Not in a legal way, I will say. Maybe spiritually, maybe karmically, but I don't know. That's something I kind of put at rest. So the radical acceptance, like, now that I'm aging, my body is changing. I should say, I don't like the word aging. My body is changing and it's evolving, and my left eye isn't as, it's I don't want to say weaker, it's not, it's doing its own thing now, right? I'm almost 40. I'm 36 years old, and I've been on the planet for almost 4 decades. And all the vision that I've been blessed with, I am grateful for. I am living on my own successfully, independently. And through this limitation, a physical limitation, and like my peripheral is completely like delayed, right? In my left eye. But I don't know. I don't want to get stuck on it, but I wanted to share it because it's like we come into this world and we focus on what we don't have, right? We do. We focus on what we don't have. And we tell ourselves, if I had this one thing, I would be complete. If this never happened to me, then I would be better. I would be wealthier. I'd be healthier. I'd be this. I'd be more. I'd be more. I'd be more. And when we are avoiding what is right in front of us, what's right inside us, and how we've manifested into the physical realm, right? Like I'm studying these books, okay, for my master's degree. I'm showing you guys because, it's like I can relate to some of this, right? I did struggle with mathematics and chemistry. I took honors courses, I did. I wasn't a straight A student, but I made honor roll. But still, like, I really put in a lot of effort. It takes me more effort to, it takes effort for everybody. A lot of people think that people are just naturally smart or intelligent, but sometimes, a lot of the time, people who get straight A's, they put in the effort to do things and get things done. But I want to stay on track here with radical acceptance. It's like you can either radically accept your contract with your body, right? Or you can do the whole victim blaming, victim shaming. Oh, me. Why me? Why did they do this to me? Why did they do this? Now I can't achieve this. Now I can't go for that. Now I can't live this way. Now I can't wear my, I can't wear my, I can't go without my glasses. Now I have to, and it's it's a very sad existence. So it's like, for me, I kind of go in between, or I'm like smack dead in the middle of it. It's like, okay, yeah, it is what it is. And working with kids are ruthless. Kids are mirrors of our cultural reality. Okay, so kids, when I work with your kids, with your kids that you birth into this world, they become a product of their environment. So a lot of the cruelty that I'll see when the kids are speaking to one another, especially in middle school and high school, but especially in middle school, when I see the kids and how they interact with their peers and how they interact with us, it's a bit gnarly. It's brutal. It's brutal. Brutal. Right? So, when I hear that from kids, yeah, it hurts, sometimes. Or it's just kind of like, dang it, because I'm a person, I want to be taken seriously. I don't want to look like Bobo the Clown, you know what I'm saying? Eyes wandering everywhere, and I'm talking about, hey, you need to listen to me, and you see an adult telling you to do something, and they look funny. And so I find that my spirit is incredibly strong, and but also very sensitive. And it's something where it's like, with this insecurity, I feel secure. It's weird. It's like radical acceptance, and then like the bitter aftertaste of the incident. What happened to me? How come this woman didn't go to jail forever? How come what happened, right? And then it's just, but I'm like, but no, I'm here. This is how it is. This is part of who I am. Realize I didn't say this is who I am. It's part of who I am. And it is what it is, you know? And yeah, has it bothered like if men, you know, or potential partners are attracted to that? And that's the thing, it's like, it is what it is. If you can't, you know, deal with Bobo, someone who looked like Bobo, okay? Bobo the clown with wandering eyes everywhere, move on. Like, move on. I can't, there are a lot of instances in my life where I met partners that had very interesting physical attributes. And some were harmless, some were medical, some weren't, some were heartbreaking, right? And they're very private. I'm not gonna like go into detail because I'm not gonna put them out like that. Even though it's been like well over a decade, I'm not gonna put them out like that, right? Out of respect. But when I think back, I'm like, some of it's pretty very unique, and you wouldn't think, you wouldn't guess, you wouldn't know unless you knew them on an intimate level, right? And they accepted me, so it's like, you know, there's always someone out there for everybody, I guess, you know, that type of dialogue. But no, I feel like I wanted to share that with you guys because, listen, I'm all about consciousness and self-empowerment and self-improvement and doing better and doing this and doing that. And you know what? You know, it's okay to be vulnerable and transparent, and it's okay to not be okay. Like, sometimes I look in the mirror and I'm like, great, who's gonna take me seriously? Who's gonna take me seriously? Right? Or, you know, then other times I'm like, hey, it is what it is. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, I'm beautiful, I'm confident, I have the health of my eyes, I can see, I can drive, I can, you know, do my very highly detailed artwork, okay? Incredibly detailed. Look, I just finished this piece. So I co-teach in an art class, and they were doing this technique, and I was like, let me try that with my black and white art. Like, come on. Beautiful, right? So I have a little pride in my art. Because it takes a long time to do sometimes. So, but no, it's like, I'm looking at what I have, and it's like, why would I want it any different? Why would I want it any different? But this happened to me. And you know what's so important about the victim archetype? You have to allow the victim to have a voice. Because it destroys. It can destroy you. It can limit you. It can, when you don't take full accountability, like, that would be me blaming my parents, blaming that woman, blaming everyone involved in that situation for not doing enough, not trying hard enough. That's bullshit. I'm not the type of person to do that. Again, I'm parent myself. I parent the parts of myself that my mother and father, for whatever reason, couldn't accomplish. And that's okay. And they're not at fault at that. And that's liberating for me. I'm liberating them, and I'm liberating myself from ridiculous amount of resentment and anger and bitterness and shame and blame and guilt. What, I'm going to feel sorry for myself? Why? Look at what I'm able to do. Look, I've done so many beautiful things. I've been so gifted and blessed with meeting so many different people. And there was one picture of the incident in one of my hospitalizations. And this woman, she was a white lady with, like, you know, it was in the late, like, 80s. So, you know, 80s hair, okay? And I believe she was a nurse. And there was a picture of her holding me. And I could tell that she had deep, oh my God, I think I'm going to start crying. I could tell that she had deep love in her work and what she was doing for me at that time. And my mother was also there. Like, I think, you know, they had the picture or camera. And my mom, I think they were both taking pictures of each other with me. And the amount of, my mom looked so at peace. And so I know that I was taken great care of. And I received the service and the love and the healing I needed to be where I'm at today, all those years ago. So I am forever grateful to that woman in that picture. I believe she was a nurse. I'm grateful for my mom and my father. My father always encouraged me. Oh man, my father always encouraged me. He would tell me, my dad's a real dude. Like, okay, he grew up in the hood, okay? Like, saw a lot of death. Like hard life. And not like he didn't, I don't believe he has never been to prison, but he's just, it's his story. I have to respect his path. So I'm not going to go into detail with that, but he would tell me growing up, he was like, I remember when because I would struggle to walk because of my vision, because of it would be that inverted, and I gripped onto the hand railings going downstairs or walking on the curb. And he said, I paid attention to how you walked and how determined you were to play with other kids, right? And he was, I don't know. My father and I have a very unique bond. Like, I feel like I was put on this planet for him. He was put on this planet for me. And to get through our most darkest times, I feel, because, or hard moments, because when he would tell me that, and I'd be going through something, especially when I was preteen, I was 13, 14, stressed out about 13 and 14-year-old stuff. He would bring up the moments where I was like at my weakest as a way to encourage me, like, hey, look how far you've come. I've seen where you were, and look how far you've come. Don't let this get you down. Time will pass, And so there's immense amount of gratitude for my parents. I don't talk to my mom as often as I'd like, but I talk to my dad a lot. I mean, I talk to him on the phone more than I see him. Because our schedules are different, and I'm working full-time, grad school, blah, 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 prioritizing, But just liberate yourself. I think radical acceptance of what is, especially with your physical body, right? Because that's not the only changes I feel in my body, my bones. Woo! Wow. 36, it's like, oh, okay. I can't even imagine what it's like for professional athletes, because like they sculpt their bodies for decades, and it's like, how do they deal with aging, right? Because I know doing so many flip-flops and jumps and stretches and jump and leaps and all that other stuff, it slowly deteriorates, your muscles, right? Or not your muscles, but like your body, it's wear and tear, right? So, because I know athletes go through their own thing, but I also think about like people who have other more severe limitations, and it's just something that you accept and you live with. So I practice gratitude every day. I write 10 things I'm grateful for after I do my letter writing, and yeah, so thank you for listening. If you listen to the whole thing, it's not but why did this happen to me? I think it's important to allow that voice to speak, whether through journals, to a therapist, to a trusted one, someone you trust, because the victim they need to be heard. Like, the archetypes in our consciousness need to be heard. But they're not, and they should not rule and possess your life. If you want to increase the quality of your life, You have to do the soul work. Or discover parts of yourself. So I will end the video with that. And thank you so much for tuning in. And may this message find you well and whole. Take care.